will be in the race, the title contention race, not just the playoff race throughout the season, though. So that is them. Now let's go over to one of their rivals, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. They went 10-7 last year, made the playoffs, lost to Cincinnati in that crazy wild card game where they were a yard away, and then the 99-yard fumble return happened, and that was kind of game. Also, the Lamar stuff was going on towards the end of the season, and he was injured, but they've gotten it all ironed out. Lamar Jackson's extended. They don't have to worry about him, but they did lose some pieces. Obviously, starting off with offensive coordinator Greg Roman, and then they also lost guard Ben Powers and wide receiver Sammy Watkins. And on defense, they lost a couple of veterans and defensive lineman Calais Campbell, defensive end Justin Houston, and also defensive end Jason Pierre-Paul. And then lost a couple of cornerbacks and Kyle Fuller and Marcus Peters. And Peters been there for a while. But then addition-wise, they brought in offensive coordinator Todd Monken, a couple of wide receivers, and Nelson Aguilar and Odell Beckham Jr. And then on defense, they brought in cornerback Rocky Sin via free agency. And then draft-wise, first round went and grabbed wide receiver Zay Flowers out of Boston College at round 1, pick 22. It definitely seems to be an effort to get Lamar more weapons. And then in third round, grabbed linebacker Trenton Simpson out of Clemson. So bolstering their linebacker depth there. Nonetheless, your thoughts, John, on the Ravens and their offseason?
In general, I don't necessarily really mind any of the offseason moves. Obviously, I don't know. I think on paper, you look at a lot of it, and a lot of people be like, wow, like they kind of lost a lot of depth on defense. But I can't remember. But over the last couple of years, like the Ravens defensively, especially last year before they got Roquan Smith, I think that was around the trade deadline, their defense wasn't actually all that great. And they were dealing with injuries, and some of these guys are older and all this stuff. So I don't really mind a lot of the players they lost, except for maybe Calais Campbell, because he was always a stud for them. And like a leader and all that. He'd just been there for a while. So it kind of sucks to lose him. But like Houston, Pierre-Paul, Fuller, Peters, like three of those guys had kind of only been there for like the last few years. And, I don't know. I just didn't feel like they were all super impactful guys at this point in their careers. And so I like the decision to turn it over to the youth, to Odafe Owe and some of these kind of other guys, and just let them see what they got. And if they don't have it, they don't have it. But, I like that because also a lot of people might forget like David Ojabo, who they drafted last year. I was pretty high on him. He's coming back from injury. Maybe he could fill in for a spot. So you never know. But in general, I don't know. The tough part about the Ravens is we don't really know what their offense is going to look like without Greg Roman. You lose Roman. His stamp had been on that offense for quite some time. He's gone. They add some receiving talent, but even then, the receiving talent is like, all right, Zay Flowers, you and I were both high on, but he's a rookie. How much can he really produce? Odell's pretty old. He's had an injury history. Rashad Bateman was not the healthiest last year. And so I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens to the Ravens. I still think they're capable of making the playoffs or even competing for this division. It just, the overall big question marks are going to be, can the young guys on defense step up? How does the offense look in terms of schemes and all those kind of things? And then also, can the Ravens just stay healthy? I mean, I'm knocking on wood, but the big reason the Ravens had some rough years over the last handful is because they've just had so many injuries to a lot of key positions.
Yeah, I mean, just to continue that, I mean, Lamar, end of last year, J.K. Dobbins really hasn't been right since his rookie year. And we know they value the running back position very much so. I mean, even Ronnie Stanley, we talked about him in our tackles. He was dealing with an injury last year. There'd be games where he would play like the first bit of the game and he just didn't look right. So then they had to, sit him out the rest of the game or cycle him in. So hopefully they can get all sorted out. I am with you. I'm a little concerned. I am concerned about the defense. I pulled up the rankings. This is via covers.com, so they could be wrong. But middle of the pack defense. They were 17th in the regular season last year. Overall, and obviously they did improve when Roquan was added, but they did lose a lot of key veteran pieces. Like I know Marcus Peters, he can kind of be hit or miss, but he's been there a while. And we had talked a little bit throughout last year. Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, they were still new. We saw in the Miami game, for example, they were messing things up, having miscommunications. So we'll see if the Ravens can iron that out, and if those youngsters you mentioned, like Owe, if they can step up, because edge rusher, they haven't had a premier one since Darius and Suggs. We're probably the last two, and I know it's been a couple of years, but since then it's been kind of a struggle for them to find a consistent dominant edge rusher. I know Justin Houston's very good, JPP and Calais Campbell, like you mentioned, all veterans, very great careers, but definitely the Ravens were squeezing out whatever was left in that toothpaste tube for those guys. And those guys would have been great number twos, but they were kind of more reliant as the main guys getting pressure. So we'll see. And then obviously Marlon Humphrey, he was dealing with coming off injury last year, so maybe he takes a step and becomes better, kind of his former self this year again, and helps out with that defense. But I am excited about the offense. I'm hoping this, with the additions of Odell, and you mentioned injury concern there, and Zay Flowers, but all signs point to they will open up the pass game more, which I'm all for. Let Lamar throw the ball a little more and have more concepts. As we've seen in previous years, it seems like Roman, the first couple weeks, had some good ideas, but then from there didn't have any depth or anything off of that. And then we would see the Ravens get off to this crazy hot start. Lamar's balling, they're looking unstoppable, and then kind of hit that wall once teams kind of figure out some of their concepts and what they like to do, and then it's just kind of struggles from there. But we'll see if the Ravens can A, stay healthy, and B, innovate and just kind of get a boost from one of their young investments or older investment in Odell. So I expect them to be a feisty team nonetheless. They always are with Harbaugh, and they're always well coached. So, and they have that crazy preseason win streak, which I know it's preseason, but I think it goes to show the attitude that the Ravens have. Like they want to go out there and win every game. It doesn't matter if it's a preseason game. It's they're going out there to win and beat you physically, especially. So,
and I will add too. I mean, in terms of at least our personal rankings, this obviously doesn't necessarily mean anything, but they have a lot of guys that we were either both or individually very high on. I already mentioned Ojabo, but I forgot, like, they have Jalen Armour Davis, who you were super high on. He's kind of moving up the depth chart because last year, he was a rookie, and, corner is historically one of those positions that's really hard for rookies to immediately come in and make an impact. I remember they got Travis Jones on the defensive line, who a lot of people thought he might be a first-round pick. They got him. So they have a lot of young guys who, if one or two of those guys that haven't really proven much yet do hit, then who knows? We could see, the defense be a lot better, at least than it currently looks on paper.
Yeah, so we'll see. Obviously, just gotta stay healthy and put a full season ahead of them. So we'll see what they do.